I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen for Tuesday, May the 20th. We have some very special guests tonight. We have some Eagle Scout troops that are here to present the colors. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to the Eagle Scouts, and if you will all stand.
Scout salute! Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ready, cut!
We are excited to have these Eagle Scouts with us tonight, and I want to tell you who our guests are. These are all gentlemen that have received their Eagle Scout, which is such an amazing recognition, and we're really proud of all of them. From Troop 146, we have Tegan Lavoie. From Troop 45, we have William Bolden, Connor Carlisle, Jackson Copeland, Tate Lynn, Cole Milner, Hugh Monteith, Parker Stepp, and Hugh Wilson. From Troop 144, we have Elliot Bruce, Thomas Cribbs, Robert Jubera, Christian Kozlowski, Tommy Nickel, a few others that I don't think that they are here tonight, but I want to mention from Troop 146, Zeke Crocker, John Swain, and Evan Wilson. And from Troop 45, Austin Hughes, Jackson Stone, and Matt Cole. I want to brag on a few of these guys a little further. Parker Stepp. Parker, will you identify yourself? There at the end. Parker Stepp was named Scout of the Year by the local VFW Post. He went on to win Scout of the Year for the entire state. Parker is now entered for the National Scout of the Year. Congratulations, Parker. Elliot Bruce, will you identify yourself? Elliot is an OHS star student recognized for the school's highest ACT score. One of only 2 students to receive the award from OHS. Congratulations, Elliot. Thomas Cribbs, will you identify yourself? Thomas is the LHS star student, again, for the school's highest ACT score and one of only 2 students to receive this award at LHS. Congratulations. Tommy Nickel. Tommy placed first in the overall individual Congress category at the state speech and debate tournament. He's also a member of a team of 4 OHS students to place first in the public forum category at the state tournament. Congratulations, Tommy. And Hugh Wilson. Hugh was part of a 2-person team that placed second in the duet interpretation category at the state speech and debate tournament. An impressive group of guys, and we are honored to have you here with us tonight. Thank you. Thank you, and thank you to all of you parents that joined us. All right, at this time, I'm going to ask the board to adopt the agenda. I have one addition. If you will add at consent 3D10, a travel request for the Oxford Fire Department from May 28th through May 31st. That is the only addition I have. Ashley, did we have anything else later?
No, ma'am, that was it.
All right.
Motion to approve the consent agenda. The entire agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? A quick mayor's report for you tonight. Want to say a special thank you to our street department, Oxford Utilities, Environmental Services, Emergency Management, OPD, and Oxford Fire Department for all of the work over the past few days with the terrible storm that blew through. We are apparently in for some more really bad weather that is on its way now. And we just appreciate so much our folks that put themselves in harm's way to take care of us during these storms. We had a very successful destination car show on the square on Saturday, and another exciting event coming up Saturday at 1 o'clock, the community pool will open with a water slide. So y'all join us at the pool Saturday at 1 o'clock, and we will.
She goes down the slide.
No, sir, I'm not getting in my swim dress. All right. I will request permission to approve the minutes from the regular meeting on May 6th, the special meeting on May 8th, and the recess meeting on May 13th.
I move we second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Request permission to approve accounts for all city departments.
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ask you to consider the consent agenda with the one addition.
Motion to consider the consent agenda with the addition.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Request permission to adopt a resolution of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Oxford, Mississippi, awarding the sale of $5 million City of Oxford, Mississippi General Obligation Bonds, Series 2025, directing the issuance of said bonds, providing for the levy of taxes for the payment thereof, authorizing the preparation and distribution of a final official statement in connection with said bonds and for related purposes. Sue, thank you for being here tonight.
Sure. So at your April 15th meeting, you authorized us to go forward with the sale of these bonds. We've published notice as required by law, so that proof of publication is with your resolution. Today, we accepted 7 bids, and government consultants verified those bids. Of that bid, Bernardi Securities was the low bid at 4.238%. So that is the low bid. So we're asking approval of this resolution so that we can go ahead with the final closing of these bonds.
All
And
right.
we
Does anybody
expect-
have any questions? Do I have a motion? Okay.
Second.
Oh, sorry. All right. All in favor? Any opposed? Didn't hear you. Thank you. Thank you, Sue.
Oh,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
being here. At this time, I would ask the board to authorize an appointment to the Oxford School District Board. Ray Hill has resigned from the school board, and we are proposing to appoint Denny Tosh to fill the remainder of his 10-month term that is left. Do I have a motion to do that?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Request permission to approve a parade assembly permit for Tamara Baker to host a Walk for Jesus on June 28th from 3 until 3:30 p.m. DC's coming up.
This is a simple parade permit that's going to last from 3 to 3:30. We're asking you to walk around the square about 7 laps.
Okay.
Motion made.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Thanks, DC. Request permission to approve a preliminary and final plat for case 3209 1 Adams Place for property located at 1418 Adams Avenue, being further identified as PPIN 6162. Kate.
Thank you. The subject property is an L-shaped lot with frontage on Adams Avenue and North 15th Street. This plat would allow for a subdivision resulting in 2 lots measuring .128 acres and .195 acres. This would create a nonconformity, as Lot 1 would be below the lot size minimum for the zoning district, which is traditional suburban residential, upon subdivision. This property was the subject of 2 cases before the Planning Commission on May 12th. The case regarding this plat, as well as a request for 2 variances, one from the lot size minimum and one from the Conservation Overlay District yard standards for the existing building, which fronts 1418 Adams Avenue. While the lot has a house fronting Adams Avenue that was just mentioned, 1418 Adams, it was also the site of an unapproved demolition of the second house that was located on the lot, 433 North 15th Street. This lot was the subject of a special exception in November of 2022 to allow for a residential common interest development. At that time, the lot was overbuilt according to the Land Development Code, as the lot size does not allow for 2 primary dwellings on a lot of this size. Staff and the applicant discussed that if one of the dwellings were to be removed, that it would correct this nonconformity and that no new dwelling in its place would be supported by staff. Additionally, the unapproved demolition carries consequences according to the city's Historic Preservation Code. According to section 5427 of the Municipal Code, Preservation Commission has the authority to deny any application on the property where a resource was demolished without approval for up to 48 months. The building was demolished in late 2023, meaning that the Preservation Commission could still enforce this moratorium allowed by the code. At that meeting in November of 2022, the special exception for the residential common interest development was approved by the Planning Commission, with one of the stated conditions being that if either primary building is demolished, a new dwelling cannot be rebuilt in its place. At the most recent Planning Commission meeting on May 12th, the Commission heard a new request for the 2 variances, and there was discussion about the consequences of the unapproved demolition and the resulting limitations on the lot based on the lot size required by the code. Staff recommended denial of the proposed lot size variance as well as the preliminary and final plat. The Planning Commission saw fit to approve the variance requests and recommended approval of the preliminary and final plat. Commissioner Alexander made that motion to approve the lot size variance with a condition that construction would not begin until January 1st, 2026, and that the plans must be approved by the Historic Preservation Commission. That was seconded by Commissioner Murphy and was approved in a 4-2 vote. And then the preliminary and final plat were recommended for approval in a motion by Commissioner Smith and was approved. So the Planning Commission is recommending that the Mayor and Board of Aldermen approve the preliminary and final plat with 2 listed conditions in addition to that third by Commissioner Alexander that construction would not begin until January 1st of 2026. So I'm happy to answer any questions you guys have about that.
Kate, does the Planning Commission have authority to put any moratorium on anything? Isn't that
It's the Preservation Commission's moratorium.
So preservation, that January 26th, January of 26 is not really binding on anything. I want to make sure, I mean, I understand they recommended it to be placed as an addition, but doesn't, regardless of what's decided tonight, the entire project has to go before the Preservation Commission, who is at their discretion, can do whatever they want to do with the moratorium, keep it in place or not.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not sure if the Planning Commission could place the 2026 moratorium, but regardless, the Preservation has the authority to place that moratorium, and that hasn't been heard.
I just want to clear that up because that doesn't seem to be a consideration or should be a consideration, in my opinion, tonight.
Okay.
I think it's just what we're asked to decide is whether or not we want to make the L-shaped lot or grant dividing it, subdividing it, correct? Mm-hmm. And subdividing it, you would bring about your variances and whatnot that the Planning Commission
correct
determined. Okay.
But if you're approving or denying, you're following the Planning Commission's motion, which is got that involved. You will have to, in my mind, remove it in your motion. Vote.
Well, you can grant, deny, or grant it with different conditions. You can impose your conditions. So long as, I think we've often said that so long as it doesn't deprive notice of the original hearing of the matter, and I don't think that change would deprive notice of the original hearing of that matter. Because the condition added there anyway, I think you all could grant with or without that condition, or deny it.
But it'll need to be in the motion to approve it. I mean, yes, we're approving or denying. If we approve it,
If we deny it,
then
you're approving what the planning commission said. That's correct.
Well, it technically was a condition on the variance, not on the subdivision plat. So.
Well, we're not considering the variance, though. We're only considering
hearing
the
the
final
final.
plat.
No, that's
So,
correct. If it's a condition on the variance and not the plat, then it runs with the variance.
It was with the lot size variance.
Yeah, That's not really what y'all are considering.
Well, tell me how this works then. The condition was with the variance?
Correct.
And we're not considering the variance.
But my understanding of the Preservation Commission and its authority is that it's their discretion to do what they want. So if technically this plat's approved, that doesn't mean anything from the standpoint of we approve this plat, then they go before the Preservation Commission, and the Preservation Commission can say, yeah, that design's approved, but your moratorium stands and you can't do anything until 48 months from the time of demolition, correct?
Yes, and so the building was demolished in the end of 2023, so technically the Preservation Commission moratorium, should they choose to enforce it, will be longer than the one imposed by the Planning Commission.
Right, I don't think the planning, my point being is I question whether the Planning Commission can make that determination on when construction can be built. That seems to be, per our code, a ruling which is reserved specifically with historic preservation.
Yeah, actually, Brian, in your question whether or not the Preservation Commission can impose a moratorium period.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that question's before us tonight. I don't know the answer.
I don't think it is.
I don't know the answer, and I wouldn't want to make whatever you all say. You're not offering variance, and I think that's a question to be answered at the preservation, at the hearing.
It's just kind of messy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just kind of a jumbled mess, and so I want to try and make sure exactly what we're doing here, and that's whether or not this board approves the final plat as recommended by the Planning Commission. Period.
Which is the two
Making
parcels.
one lot, one
Divided
element
into two.
two lots.
So we're voting tonight on one lot into two.
That's it.
Well, no, not really. If the lot is as it was when it was passed, it is one piece, and we are voting to do away with whatever restrictions or anything else that was put on that lot, because you're dividing that lot. I mean, they said, if you tear this down, you can't build again. That was in our first meeting. Now we're saying, oh, we're gonna divide the lot, yeah, you can build on it. You're agreeing something.
I'm not so sure. You're granting the subdivision plat, you're allowing it to be subdivided, but I don't know if you are holding forth, literally holding on the moratorium issue. I don't know that you're ruling on it just because you're saying one of the things you must do in order to get this thing built the way you want to build it is you've got to subdivide it. You're saying only we can rule on that question, and we're ruling that you can't. I don't know that you're answering anything else, Rick.
So it would still go before the Preservation Commission.
Yes.
Would be the next step, and at that point in time is when it would be determined the length of moratorium.
Correct.
Or whatever.
Or whether they have the power to impose it. You've had this issue come up on other issues where people have asked for relief or air rights or something, and then wanted to say, because the board had the power to grant me that, these other down road questions of the Preservation Commission or anything don't apply to me. And we very explicitly said, no. All you did was decide the subdivision issue. You've not preempted anything that the Planning Commission cannot do or can do.
But when we subdivided, we are saying all previous rulings are gone because it's not a piece anymore. It's now two pieces, and they start all back over.
Yeah.
And nothing abides to that property anymore.
You're saying that it would void the residential common interest development with that condition, right?
It voids everything that we've done before now. When we make two new pieces and they're brand new.
There was a special exception in November 22 code that said, common interest development, that said if you tear down a piece, you can't rebuild. And that's what I think what Rick is saying.
Yes, I don't think subdividing the plat is granting permission to build. I understand that's a required element in order to build, but I don't think you all have made the determination as to whether they could build. Their decision was to ask for it to be subdivided. They've asked for it, and you said, we'll allow it to be subdivided. But I don't think in doing that, you have affected the moratorium or made it legal or illegal, whichever it is or it isn't. You've not given them permission to build on it. They've made the decision, it's now subdivided, and as a subdivided lot, it may still have whatever other restrictions apply to the rebuilding on that site.
So where does that 2026 come into play? Or is that just a arbitrary, that's not,
Yeah, I mean.
2027 would be
when you
4
grant a
years.
variance,
Right, I know, but I thought there was a
any
2020
condition you
Yeah,
put
that's
in,
what the planning commission put in.
Yeah.
They can do that, and whether that's consistent with the moratorium, and whether the preservation gets out of the way of all this, I don't know what they're gonna do, but
Okay, so let me see if I can
I
unmuddy
don't think you all
this.
properly have that question before you. It hadn't been appealed, it hadn't been claimed to be illegal, and I don't know that it becomes a ripe issue until they say, by golly, we're enforcing that moratorium, or we're not, and the neighbors say, how can you not, and then they appeal that issue to you. I don't think that's before you on the subdivision plan, but I think that's where I.
And so you're saying that dividing this lot does not change the moratorium, it does not change it, even though it's now a different lot than it was when the house was torn down. You're saying it does not change that. I think that's the concern I'm hearing is.
Yeah, I don't know, Mayor, whether it does or it doesn't. I don't think it does, but that's really.
Well, I think that's the danger
And that
of-
argument, I don't think anybody's made any argument that has been appealed to you to say, and the moratorium comes down. There's nothing illegal about you granting a subdivision plat because it was asked for, just because there's still a moratorium on building. I think that's how I see it.
I'm
Because I
staying
think-
away
I think
from
the
the
Rick's-
moratorium, though.
the-
Mine is, we are granting a subdivision plat on a piece of property that does not
Yeah.
fit in the
That's a good
zone
point.
on one piece of it. I mean, we're saying, yeah, we'll let you divide that, and it doesn't fit.
Well,
It's already been giving a variance to say, you can't do that, and now we're saying, yeah, you can.
So does the common interest development go away if we subdivide, if we approve the subdivision?
That was my understanding of the planning commission, is that it would void the RCOD.
So then that, when that goes away, the restrictions tied to that go away,
Correct.
which is about if you tear a house down, you can't build a second one.
So yes, it does affect.
So if we approve this, those restrictions do go away.
That's where
There was a lot of discussion about that.
You may get me there, that may be right. Yeah, I'm sorry, I hadn't considered the issue before. I see the argument, I see what you're saying, that it's tied to a condition of the lot that's no longer there once it's subdivided. I get what you're arguing. I guess that's probably right. I will tell you though, I hate to say that I'm opining on that and that they're counting on that to be true and real if somebody challenges it. I don't know if that's true. I think that makes sense more than it did.
After all the discussion at the planning commission meeting, whether that's true or not, that's where I believe they landed, is that it would void the RCOD.
So you think they made the recommendation 5-1 with the, whatever it was, with the idea that the moratorium would go away?
I think
Which is
so.
why they put a different one in place.
all of the variances would go
I
away.
mean-
Everything goes away, which takes us from the right size lot down to a small, extremely small.
Accounted for with the variance.
Correct.
Right.
Otherwise, for the amended plat, I see letters, they satisfied that requirement, all affected.
Well, it's not a
neighbors.
subdivision, so they don't have to,
Oh, yeah, I got it.
But there
Okay.
were, I did fail to mention that there were several levels of support from neighbors.
It's amending a
Yeah.
plat, not a subdivision.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, Ben says it would void the residential. Let's see. Okay, Kirk, you can come on. Yep.
Thank you all. For the record, my name is Kirk Milam. Me and my wife, Sarah Camp, Ben Williams and his wife, Melissa, we are the neighbors of this lot on North 15th Street. And we are the owners of this lot. We purchased this lot from the previous owner, who was the person who tore the house down. We have absolutely no relationship, business relationship with him whatsoever. When the lot was torn down, it sat there. The former owner said he was going to sell it, put it on the market. As the neighbors, we have a strong vested interest in making sure that it's going to be a long-term homeowner as opposed to being developed for the highest price that can go to anybody, or to try to do some other type of development with additional lots. In consultation with the planning department, prior to us signing this contract, we got some assurances of what we could do, and we would go through all the necessary processes. We did that, and requested this subdivision, and the planning commission came down and said that a moratorium until January of 26 satisfied them. We have not submitted anything to Historic Planning Commission yet.
So Kurt, when you say you got some assurances of how this would go, are you insinuating that you were told that you would not have to go by the 48-month moratorium?
No.
Or what do you mean by assurances?
Yes, I mean, I do have that assurance. Yes, ma'am.
That you would not have to go by the 48-month moratorium?
But you did have somebody
But,
tell you
well,
that
the
you would have
planning-
to follow it because we spoke on that phone call.
Yes, sir. Yeah, no, I agree. And I guess the point was, when we met, the planning department wrote us an email back and said the moratorium doesn't apply as it was written. I understand it's been amended as of January or February.
I'm just confused because this went to the planning commission with a recommendation not to approve from the planning staff. I mean, so the assurance is what?
No,
The planning
I'm sorry.
staff
I'm
is
sorry.
supposed
The
to go.
assurances were there was a process. There was a process to go through. It wasn't without complications, but there was a process to go through. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that there was an assurance that we would get approved. No, ma'am. I did not. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There was discussion about whether or not the Historic Planning Commission moratorium applied based on the ordinance as written at the time. And that was
I just wanted to understand
that
what
was
you
the
were saying.
assurance I received, was that it didn't as written. Now, I do understand that it has been amended, and I wasn't in the planning commission meeting, but I understand there were discussions, and that was the motion, and that was approved, and we're okay with that. To us, the people that violated the rules were criminally punished. And I wasn't involved in that. The judge makes the call on whatever, limits of authority. And they were punished for that. Everybody in our neighborhood has a vested interest in not having an empty lot sitting beside us. And so we took the opportunity to try to rectify this. And the way to do that was to subdivide the property as opposed to just keep the common interest development and try to, I guess, ask for the moratorium to be withdrawn and build.
I think just where I'm coming from here, and I don't get to vote, so there you go.
I know,
But,
I know.
I think that, I hear you saying that the person that tore it down was criminally punished and paid a fine and what have you. He did, and he should have. Also, one of the reasons that we have these ordinances in place is to prevent that happening again. If it appears that, okay, you may have to pay $1,000 and you're told you can't build it, but you just sell it to the next person and they can, then that becomes the new trick.
Sure.
And so that's where my concern comes in. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want that to happen to another house on your street. It's not fair to the integrity of our entire, you serve on the planning commission because
Yeah.
you care enough about it
I do.
to make sure. I know, that's what I'm saying. So I don't want, it's just at our core, if we don't say, you tear something down and there's gonna be some repercussions, what are we doing?
I completely understand what you're saying. I was going by what the ordinances said and what I was told by the planning commission of whether or not a moratorium would apply, and which there are no, the moratorium ordinance is within the historic preservation, 5427. And it has two separate distinguishing characteristics. One is, three. One is if you have plans for a house and you tear something down you're not supposed to, it says you will be you can be fined or you can be made to build back what was there. There's also, if you want, at least in this version at the time, if you want to request a demolition permit, you may do so, and it shall be granted providing there's a covenant put in place for the 48 months. If you ask to demolish it for the purpose of leaving just it blank and landscaping plan. And so that was the question we were asked, and we're told, no, that doesn't apply in this case, the 48 months. And we're okay with the January 26th moratorium and going before the Historic Planning Commission and working with them. We're just trying to get this subdivided out so we can try to move forward with doing something with this property besides it just being a grass lot that I'm going to have to mow in perpetuity. Anything else? Okay. Thank y'all for.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Hey, when was the original?
Can I clarify something about the ordinance change really quick? Yeah. So, we already had in place, as you guys know, because we came before you a bunch of times, we redid all the surveys, redid the guidelines, and redid the ordinance over like a year and a half period. And there was the provision already in place in the code that when you go before the commission for demolition, which is an approved demolition, you either have to have plans for what's going to be built back, approved by the commission at the same time, or you can provide a landscaping plan and there'd be a 48-month covenant moratorium that you wouldn't build on the site. And when we redid the ordinance, specifically because of this site, we added that into the unapproved demolition section so that there would be a way to essentially penalize for unapproved
Absentee.
demolitions. Yeah. And the 48 months was already in the code, so that seemed like a good benchmark.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, Jason.
And of no fault at all of the current owners.
Correct.
This was not the first house this has been done to.
Right.
And so we've seen this repeatedly and, knew it needed more teeth in order to prevent it from continuing to happen.
So when it was torn down till the 48 months is up, when is that? That's not January.
End of 2027.
2027.
December of 27. And if it remained a residential common interest development, were the restrictions that say you can't build a second house on it?
Right.
could they leave it as the residential common interest and go back and ask for that?
I don't believe that they
Relief.
could with the condition that was in that RCID. Because the residential common interest development was approved in 2022 with a condition by the planning commission that if the building is torn down, nothing could be built back in its place because of the restrictions of the lot size.
So if the lot division is granted tonight, the RCID goes away.
That's
Correct.
right.
But if the moratorium is over and then the division is requested, I don't know, I'm just trying to think through what are the options of.
Yeah, I think this is my own opinion, but I think if the moratorium period would be over and the subdivision is requested, then that it would have the same effect of voiding the RCID, and they would be able to go before the planning commission with new plans. Is that what you're asking?
Go for planning or historic preservation?
Historic.
And
If the
historic
subdivision
can
was
interpret,
Yeah.
historic can interpret their code however.
Correct, but it does read that the moratorium is in place from when the building was demolished, so at that time would expire.
Sure.
But it's up to no one has enforced a 48-month moratorium at this point, correct? But it's up to the historic preservation to decide if it's up to, the 48 months is the maximum.
Correct. Yeah, it's and it's at the commission's discretion.
Can we continue this meeting downstairs in the basement?
We've done this before for tornado warning and board of Alderman downstairs.
We are, okay. If y'all would like to join us in the basement in the tornado shelter to continue this meeting.
Put a note on the door that says
I will. I'll meet y'all downstairs. Okay. Well, that's just
Couple of lightning strikes.
Mary, something